It's 11 o'clock. We have a few things to get through, so let's go ahead and get started. Well, Rao, are you ready to tee up the technical update?
Yeah, I am. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, everyone. I just posted the community update 123, the link to that in the chat, and I'm going to share my screen. Okay, you should be seeing the community update right now. Are you seeing that? Community update 123?
Yes, it's coming in.
Okay. So basically, as far as what versions are running on the networks, remains the same as last week. 0924 is the most recent release. But 0925, basically all the PRs are in, and we are right now testing them. And this test, because we have configuration changes, it'll have to go through like a couple of rounds. We just want to make sure that we do that on the sandbox and then migrate the existing test net to the new test net, and then do the migration of the main net to the new main net. And of course, there is the standard testing for bugs and everything else. So because of the configuration changes, we just want to be particularly careful that we don't introduce any problems in the migration process. So we're going to be doing that, running that a couple times, the migration process from the old configs to the new configs at the sandbox and testnet, and then run all the tests on both the environments before we go to the mainnet. So that's where we are. I talked about this tuple space mismatch error and the fact that one of the validators had incorrect slashing on just one of the nodes out of the 10. So this is going to be something that we will keep an eye on for the long term, because the sources for this could be because we're just talking about a state being different somehow under some circumstances in a particular node, but not in the rest of the network. So this is somewhat indeterministic. So we'll have our eye on it. And anytime we are getting anything that causes the tuple space mismatch, we're collecting whatever information we can about the conditions that are causing that, and trying to correlate all the different things or incidents that we're able to, where we are able to create a tuple space mismatch. So that's sort of an ongoing investigation. So whatever fixes we're putting in for this, we cannot say they're final and done, but at least we're fixing what we are seeing, and it should reduce the possibility or probability of that error repeating. So that's something we're going to continue to monitor. So that's ongoing. The block merge design spec is ready for review. That's issue number 23 in the RChip proposals repository under the RChain project. So I put the link in here. This is the one that, if you're able to see my cursor, this is what I'm referring to. There are discussions, comments, reviews going on that proposal or on that design spec. So please review that, add any insights, comments, questions you have on that one. And once that is complete, basically that's the major part of the effort after the last finalized state. And that last finalized state, in terms of releases, it's going to be probably the 0926 release. I'll talk to the PRs. I'll show you the PRs in a little bit in just a little bit as to what's going in 0925, what's remaining for 0926 to complete the last finalized state. So that's where we are. Another piece of information on block merge, which is probably 0927 or somewhere thereabouts release, is that as we were going through the design, we came to the realization that some refactorings, perhaps significant refactoring, is needed in the runtime manager. So that'll add to the effort of completing the block merge. So that's something to keep in mind. But for now, the focus for 0925 and 0926 continues to be on last finalized state. I listed some of the tickets in here as to what all is involved. And the I'll show you the two different things. So in terms of last finalized state, the key value store for a key value store with manager, which is a basic a construct we needed to be able to address many of the issues in last finalized state, that will be going in the current 0925 release. If you're able to see my screen, all these are tickets that are going into, or PRs that are going into 0925. There's quite a few of them, as you can see. That's the reason why we wanted to just get this release out, even as we're working on the remaining tickets for last finalized state, because we don't want to have way too many things in the same release. So this by itself actually is quite a big release in terms of the number of PRs that are going in. Many of them improvements and bug fixes and API improvements. Arthur Grief has contributed this create HTTP admin, as well as the add a method for bytes to hex. And then I'm not sure if I'm saying the first name correctly, but Guilherme Silva from Brazil, he contributed this one, fixing the default .nix because BNFC was not working. Seems like he was doing something with Agda and BNFC. That's a BNF compiler to kind of get a view of things. So it seems like he found an improvement that he contributed. So thank you and a shout out to him. So you'll see that a lot of these just needed to be done either as precursors to last finalized state or needed to be fixed in their own right. You'll see the configuration changes and CI changes, the continuous integration changes as part of this. So this is what is going to go into 0925. And I want to show you, I think you should see a slightly different list of PRs now. Can someone confirm? It's 13 open. Is that what it's saying?
Yes, yeah, 13 open.
Okay, so these, you'll see many of these here. The 4098 with the malform try that relates to the slashing error, LMDB cache to reporting API improvement on that. The slashing deploys, but these things about DAG storage implementation with key value store, optimizations for block store and engine, these are like the core pieces of last finalized state that will be going in. And then there is this 4054 here. So these are all the things that will be going into 0926. And with that, with all of these completed, we should be done with the last finalized state. Now, of course, as we debug this slashing deploys and all that, if we discover something else, that'll get added to the list here. But that's kind of the in a PR view of what's going into 0925, which is the list that I showed you before, and what is needed to complete last finalized state, which is this list here, which will go into 0926. So, okay, so this is back to my, the update document. So we're addressing the discovered bugs, and this paragraph here about improvements last finalized state is just a description of what that is and what that enables. I had talked to that in the past, so I won't repeat that. In terms of SRE, like I said, where we are now, we have Sandbox with the new configuration on the IBM cloud. we are it's the testnet migration from Google to IBM is planned, meaning parts are completed even. But that will be going on over the next week or so. And we have Oracle as another cloud provider, and we have not done a whole lot of work on that yet, but we will be doing some things over there. The mainnet validators are running on Google Cloud, and at least for now, that they'll continue to do so. I'll come back to this validator expansion piece in a little bit. I just want to talk to CI/CD first. So like I mentioned last time, we're moving from Jira to GitHub, and probably the 0925 release notes will be on GitHub, and we're changing the format a little bit there. Hopefully the community finds that useful and improved compared to what was there before. The big difference is that because this is in GitHub, you'll have ready access to the PRs that are in here. And in the previous format, it was just picking up the Jira tickets. They may or may not have a PR connection there. But in this format on the GitHub, we're trying to distinguish between what are bug fixes versus what are enhancements to what is already there versus what is new features. So once we have it out, take a look at it, give us feedback on whether that's helping or not. We will also include a link to the Jira tickets in there, meaning the old release notes format will be linked to somewhere in the new document. So you have the best of both worlds, so to speak, at least for a period of time, until we don't do much in Jira anymore. So, but for now, the tickets are still in Jira. We will be migrating to GitHub issues for the tickets internally at some point in the near future. The tech governance, last meeting, we kind of set a common understanding of what is an R chip, what is not an R chip. In that everything enters R chip as an issue initially. Only after it is discussed, detailed, commented upon, and the tech governance team agrees that, okay, this is now ready to be called an R chip and further work should be done, then they will be issued an R chip number. So this way we don't have confusion about, okay, I see R chip 47 implemented and R chip 54 implemented. What happened to all the 7 in between? Maybe they never made it to being an R chip. So previously we were just issuing an R chip number as any issue came in, but we changed that so that we just treat everything as an issue, and once the team agrees, we'll give it a number. This way there is more or easier tracking, less of a mental overload on people trying to figure out what happened to R chips. Most of the R chips that are approved should be worked on for development. So that's the thinking there. dApp development tomorrow on Thursdays, basically every Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific. There is this effort to work. It's a community effort to work on replacing Zulip backend with RChain. So RChain and RCat. So that is on that and other dApp efforts, we'll be reporting in the tech update going forward. Basically, as the state or stage of the project is changing to more validators and more dApp developers joining the community and doing dApp development, and as tech governance issues and economic governance issues, meaning techno-economic governance of the network, as those take a priority, you will see, you're basically seeing that the tech update, the nature of the tech update is evolving and changing with that. So that's kind of where we are. So in the space of dApp development, Theo is going to demo I think a voting component. Theo, correct me if I'm wrong, a voting component based on functional cryptography. What it allows is anonymous voting that, from what I understand, this could be a component that could be used by multiple applications.
Yeah, it's
Theo,
basically like an app, a standalone app that can be deployed on anything, on web, on mobile, and it allows people to vote without need for a dedicated server that counts the votes. So all the counting is done locally, and counting is done on encrypted data, on encrypted votes. So the votes never leave your client, basically.
So Theo, from what I understand, is kind of testing and debugging his app. So that'll be available for demo next week, right?
Yeah,
Theo?
I'll make sure to include the crowd participation so that people in the Zoom chat can vote as a demonstration.
Nice, nice. Looking forward to it. And the backlog items, they have remained about the same. I did not add anything new to it this week. Now let me speak to the validator expansion and validator support. There are a couple of thoughts here. I mean, as more people want to join the network to become validators, they're saying, okay, what do I need to do to join and all that. Of course, we need the last finalized state completed before they can join, but that does not mean that they should not get started with running a node and getting familiar with the technology to see what kind of monitoring is available, what kind of monitoring needs to be done, all of that. So we want to encourage anybody that wants to become a validator to get started down that path. You join the pub RChain. You can start putting comments or asking questions in the development channel for now. What we are trying to do on our end is trying to simplify the process of running a node. We want to have, we don't have a timeline for this yet because obviously the core development takes precedence. And maybe there are people in the community that can help with this. What we want to do is have a one-click install for the node on multiple cloud platforms, on basically all cloud platforms, Heroku and all those things, as well as perhaps a local, you take whatever Unix version as a base and say, okay, well, if you want to install on this or beyond, here is a single click or couple of clicks install that does the right configurations, that does the right monitoring setup, that exposes the right ports for us to look into what's going on, and so we can get access to logs or data, and the validator themselves can look into that sort of a thing. So that's probably will take a little bit of conversation to define that and go with that. So that's one part of it, the one-click install. The other thing we want to do is a shard in a box or node in a box type of a thing. There are companies like Ansley that are selling devices, including a lightweight or cheap cloud monitoring tool, whereby you can basically run this from your home as long as you have a decent pipe, decent network connection to run this. So we want to enable things like that so that people can, because we want to try the stability of the network and the security of the network in a situation where there's a large amount of decentralization with people from various kinds of network and hardware capabilities joining into it, so that we can identify any potential issues and resolve them and put in place the proper governance or the configuration of shards or whatever it is that we need to do to enable that. So that's the second part of that. This again is also a possible community effort where I'm sure there are members in the community that can try this out and help us out with this. So from a technology perspective, to make things easy for validators to join, those are the two things that we're looking at: the one-click installs and the node in a box or shard in a box type of a thing. All of this still in very early stages, thinking, planning stages. The other piece of that, enabling validators, really is the communication and engagement. I'm sure many of you are aware that the session we're currently using for tech governance, which is the Thursday 10 a.m. Eastern session, used to be an R-node testing session, where somebody from the development team would demo or either bring up a node or try to troubleshoot problems for people that are trying to set up a node. But now it is a tech governance session. So we need to think about, if we do, we probably need at least, if not every week, every other week or something, we probably should have a session where we can guide new validators with any questions they have and answer those, but not necessarily do it as a deeply technical, how do you bring up the R node kind of a thing, even though maybe once in a while we'll do that. Because the thinking is that most of the validators shouldn't have to, they don't have to spend a whole month or more or about that time digging into how to run a node. We should make it easy for them to run a node. But then there will be issues around monitoring and troubleshooting and things like that that we want to engage them with. For now, anybody that wants to become a validator should join the pub RChain, put questions in the development channel, try out the node. There are enough members in the community that can help somebody run a node. But we want to enhance that communication, especially we want to get two-way feedback. If, for example, the incoming validator has experience with some other blockchain and they know or are aware of nice tools that make their job easier, we want to get that kind of feedback into so that we can improve our own ease of management, ease of somebody becoming a validator, that kind of thing. So that's sort of the validator expansion and validator support area, what the thoughts are. That is all I have to say. Any questions on any aspect of this, any part of this?
Raul, do we have a time estimate on when we will release 0926?
0925 or 26?
26, which is we have the last finalized state.
That at this point I don't have a date I can give you that I'm comfortable with. But once we get this 0925 out, we will have a better idea. I mean, 0926 is being worked on right now. But yeah, I don't want to say anything at this point. Let's first get 0925 out, and then I will get you a date on 0926.
Good. That's great.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions on the tech update? All right, over to you, Greg.
Thank you. Looking forward to Theo's demo next week. So probably the most important thing to talk about in today's meeting after the tech update is that I presented or spoke with the communications working group on the three-pronged proposal that I spoke to last week and again on Friday, on Wednesday, and then again on Friday. So the basic idea is that we want to lay in a better communications infrastructure. Part of this has to do with decentralizing the development of the website content. So the proposal is to introduce a badging system. So we develop, we allow people to develop DAPI pages with content, and we provide them with templates and CSS resources and the like to make things have an RChain look and feel. But we only badge, but content that has been badged with the RChain badge means that it's approved by the co-op. So this will allow for a much freer development of content. I like the way James Mockridge put it. So, then RChain and DAPI together become a platform for people to publish content, as opposed to it being, the official voice of the co-op. So everyone gets their voice, and they're legally responsible and responsible in all other ways for the content they create. Until they're badged, at which point, like if they're badged by the co-op, then the co-op is, officially lending its imprimatur to that content, and thereby can share any obligations or burdens that are associated with the publication of that content or the dissemination of that content. So that's step number one. There are some technical challenges that we have to look at. One of course is, how to link to DAPI hosted content from the wider web, and what sort of guarantees that can provide. But we do have a range of good solutions. Of course, there will be the review process that we'll have to iron out. But this feels like a way forward, so that we can get more people creating content for themselves and for RChain and for the community in general, and have it be done in a decentralized fashion. So any questions about that aspect of the push? Okay, silence is golden. Then moving on, associated with that, we'll want to have every co-op member have a Rev address that can be used for coordination within the co-op and community. So to this end, we'll be offering 100 Rev for people to undertake the process of getting us their Rev address and going through the KYC process, so we can verify that the KYC details previously supplied match up, and that there's an understanding of what it means to have, you're given us this Rev address. Then this can be used within DAPI to send tokens, and it can also be used to support voting and other kinds of coordination mechanisms. Does this make sense?
Yep, sounds great.
Awesome, cool. And then finally, there's the effort to replace the SQL backend of Zulip with RChain, the RChain backend plus RChat. This will give us a hosted solution. I mean, a solution and for putting the chat content directly on chain. It will provide you know, another sample application of what you can do with the RChain platform. It will provide the co-op with a communication means that's decentralized and separate from Discord. It can serve as kind of a warm up to something that's a little spiffier, snazzier in terms of the you know, the features of the UI or the architecture of the UI, something like Rocket Chat or something else. The thought is that we don't have to be committed to a specific chat. We can have chat to chat solutions that run across the chain. The other thought is that this fits into the development of the SPV. So the SPV, the solutions-based SPV, can pick up the support for that communications infrastructure and develop additional ones, and then begin to enrich and enhance that. So as I mentioned before, many times, you know, I think one of the problems with a lot of the music offerings is that it should be social first. You know, what people want to do with music is to share it with their friends. And so one could imagine that if we did have an RChat feature and function, then we could add to it the RSong features and functions. And that would greatly enhance the overall approach. And all of that can be done under the auspices of the SPV, as a means of providing additional funding from in terms of equity. So investors can buy in through equity as well as token-based approaches. Does that make sense to people following the sort of thrust there?
Yes, that sounds good, Greg. I was wondering if you can speak to the decision, the thoughts behind choosing Zulip and the academia community, and how they're more open to working with software that's coming of age, as opposed to considering Rocket Chat and the gaming community that's associated with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially, this is why I was saying Zulip can sort of be considered a warm-up. Approaching the academic community has long had a tradition of dealing with you know, software undergoing growing pains, as you said, coming of age. So they're you know, I mean, traditionally they were the first to adopt Linux, the first to adopt a lot of open source software, and as a result, they're also just much more used to you know, early generation software that isn't quite, you know, bulletproof, let's say. So whereas the gaming community is a little different, right? You know, from League of Legends to World of Warcraft to all of these, you know, sort of gaming communities, they're more likely to want something to have a bit more spit and polish. And so approaching that community sort of with a next generation offering rather than the first generation offering, I think makes more sense. And it, you know, and also, you know, at that point we will be able, if we do two of them, for example, we'll be able to demonstrate this idea of, you know, chat to chat, which was, you know, long contemplated since the early days of thinking about scenario and the kinds of features and functions it ought to have. So does that answer the question?
Yes, I think that was helpful information for everyone. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for the question. So anyway, so we want to really put a big thrust around revamping the communication infrastructure for the co-op. And this will have knock-on effects because we'll be able to have more demonstrable applications that have utility and real community and real testimonial, and begin to move towards applications that are like jukeboxes in the sense that you have to put your revs in order to get them to operate or provide the experience, which will then also be attractive to a wider range of investors. So the idea is we're responding to the community's expressed desire to have a better communications infrastructure. We're improving our own technology and beginning to show off the kinds of things that RChain can do. And then this also fits in with the climate and coordination theme, because we can begin to look at these, instantiating a shard with one of these RChain enabled chat applications as a means for a community to coordinate around some effort associated with the response to climate change. So this is the idea, is that it brings together all these threads all at once. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
And Greg, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but did you say that the topic of the RChat/Zulip, that's going to be upcoming RCast?
That's right. So we'll talk about this in the most recent RCast just happened about an hour ago, and that will be out, and that was covering the notion of bisimulation. So people who are interested in that, please look for that. And then the one for next week will be covering this this in more detail.
Yeah, that's great.
Cool. Any other questions, comments, thoughts that we want to discuss here? Or are we ready to yield back the time? Okay, I take silence as meaning we are ready to yield back the time. Thanks to one and all. There are some significant updates that have to go into closed door sessions, but we'll be speaking to those on Friday. I hope everyone stays safe.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg. Very helpful, informative.
Good, thank you.